Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Jason Corthell from the City of Pearland Fire Department. You're listening to the SA Matters radio show with Dr. Rich Gasaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello and welcome to episode 96 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from Tracy, Minnesota, where I'm in town to deliver a firefighter safety, mistakes, and best practices program. Last night I was in Windham, Minnesota, and we had over 100 firefighters from around southwest Minnesota. It was a great turnout and we had a great time. In today's feature segment, we're going to discuss how your administrative workload might be impacting your situational awareness. But before we jump into the feature segment, I have a couple of announcements. We reached a milestone that I'm really excited about. I tracked the number of people who attend SA Matters Tour Stop programs, and in January we surpassed the 50,000 mark for the number of first responders trained on the topics of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. And I got to tell you, it feels pretty darn good. I never would have guessed that when I started touring this topic around the United States and Canada that more than 50,000 responders would gather to listen to my situational awareness message and to learn more about how to make high-risk, high-consequence decisions. And I need to acknowledge those numbers also include attendees from international tour stops, which have included Europe and Asia and Australia. Our mission has come a long way since that first presentation back in 2007. And followers of the message have evolved so much and grown into something that I would have never, ever had anticipated. On that note, I want to take a moment to thank the departments and the organizations that have hosted some of the recent Situational Awareness Matters Tour Stop events. Your efforts to bring this valuable and powerful training on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making to your members and others in your region are greatly appreciated. I've been busy here in Minnesota with tour stops at Grand Rapids Fire Department, Eveleth Fire Department, Lutsen Fire Department, West Metro Fire Department, Windham Fire Department last night, and Tracy Fire Department tonight. If you're interested in joining us at one of the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stops, on February 22nd, I will be back at the West Metro Fire Department in Minnesota. Then February 25th, I'll be at the Addison Fire Department in Texas. February 26th to 28th, the NSA Winter Conference in Austin, Texas. March 1st, I'm presenting for the Los Angeles County Fire Department at a program that they have dubbed the Gathering of Legends. There will be 5 speakers there presenting to the Fire Officers Conference for Los Angeles County, and I'm very honored to be selected one of those presenters. I don't necessarily put myself in the same category as some of those legends who will be speaking. There will be 5 of us, but I appreciate certainly the opportunity and the honor to contribute to LA County's Fire Officers Safety Program. March 3rd, I'll be at the Howard County, Maryland Fire and Rescue Department. March 4 and 5, the Toms River, New Jersey District Number 2. And March 8th, the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program. Thank you to MIFRI. I've presented at your Staff and Command Program every year since 2001. And so that makes it about a 15-year run presenting for MIFRI and the National Fire Service Staff and Command Program. If you're not familiar with it, it's a program entirely for command or aspiring command level officers. And most of the attendees at the programs are captains, battalion chiefs, and assistant chiefs. And they come from all over the United States. And they cap the attendance. I'm not sure what the cap is, but I'm going to guess it to be around 100. And so it's kind of a small group. And the program goes for 6 or 7 days. And they just really hit some great topics at the staff and command program. So if you're not familiar with it and you're interested in doing some next level development of potential command officers, I'd strongly recommend checking out the MFRI, Maryland Fire Rescue Institute's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program. MFRI.org, MFRI.org is their website. March 18th, I will be giving the closing keynote for the Center for Public Safety Excellence Conference in Orlando, Florida, on the topic of creating the thinking first responder. That's a new program that I've created, talking about how to teach responders how to first think, then make decisions, and then turn those decisions into actions instead of being more robotic in actions as we see some responders are sometimes. Thank you to CPSE. I've presented at their conference probably 9 or 10 years in a row now, and I certainly appreciate their faith and support in my message as well. March 19th, I'll be giving the keynote address at the Minnesota State Fire School in Alexandria, Minnesota. March 21 to 25, I'll be delivering a full-week Company Officer Development Institute in Columbus, Indiana. This is a week-long company officer program that I developed for the state of Indiana, and I've delivered this week-long program. This will be the 21st delivery of this week-long program, not just in Indiana. I've done it in other states too. What's really cool about it, a full week, no PowerPoint, zero PowerPoint for a whole week. And we focus on the skills needed for company officers to be successful: teamwork, leadership, problem solving, conflict resolution. No command level stuff, although we have over the lunch hours been able to sneak in some situational awareness training with working lunches at those institutes, and that's been really cool too. So if you're interested in perhaps hosting company officer development, reach out to me on my website and I can give you more information on that. March 22nd, I'll be doing a situational awareness program for the Madison County, Indiana LAPC. March 26th and 27th, I'll be doing another Company Officer Development Institute for Fort Wayne Fire Department. We're running that one over 2 weekends, and so that's one of the weekends, and we'll be in Fort Wayne, Indiana. March 31, the Community Fire Department in Houston, Texas, and it's going to be a busy spring for the SA Matters Tour, and for that, I am very, very, very thankful. While I was in southwest Minnesota, I stopped by to visit my sponsor, Midwest Fire, and got a chance to sit down and talk with a few of their employees about what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. So I got to talk to account executive Dalton Lingbeck about why Midwest Fire doesn't have a dealer network. So let's listen into what he had to say about that. Okay, Dalton, I got a question for you. No dealer network. What's up with that? Are you guys just not big enough to have a dealer network, or what's the strategy here for not having a dealer network for a fire truck manufacturer? That's a little bit out of the norm.
Yeah, no, it's not that we're not big enough. It's really because we actually had people that have come to us and want to be dealers for us, and it's more of a strategy for us to be more direct with the customer. We really want to have direct communication with them, and with the benefit for them as well is that they have direct communication with manufacturing. So really the beautiful thing is that when customers call us and talk to us about trucks, they're talking to an account representative at the facility. So if they have questions that we can't answer, we're 10 steps away from engineering, we're 20 steps away from production. So getting the answers to their questions is really efficient and really easy. It really keeps costs down as well. When you deal with the big guys and they have big dealer networks, they have commission structures for their dealers. You're dealing with a middleman where we don't have those costs. So we look after our customers, make sure that their trucks are affordable, and we make them even more affordable with not having those dealer networks. And then finally, miscommunication is minimal. Basically, because like I said, you're dealing with us at the manufacturer facility. We make contact really efficient, and it's just direct, so it's really nice.
Yeah. So if I go to a conference and I see a manufacturer, they have some trucks there, and their booth is just swarming with people, and I'm not guessing. I know those are all their dealer reps. And then I walk over to Midwest Fire, and I see your apparatus on display, and I see some of your people there. Those aren't dealer reps. Those are people from right here in Laverne, Minnesota, that have gone to the conference, and you're talking to the direct people that are going to watch that truck being built beyond the walls that we're sitting in.
Exactly. Yeah. So we don't bring anybody else except people that work and are employed by Midwest Fire. You'll see in our booth, you'll see a variety. You'll see the account representatives, so all your sales guys, and then you'll see some years we bring engineering. Some years we bring people from the shop, on the shop floor, from production. Our CEO, Sarah Atchison's there every single year. You can talk to her. We bring people from the office. It's just, it's everyone you talk to is directly here at the facility in Laverne, and it's nice.
Yeah. So if you're wondering what differentiates Midwest Fire from their competitors, there you have it, right from the horse's mouth. So check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you, Dalton. And thank you, Sarah Atchison, the president of Midwest Fire, and for all of your staff for the awesome commitment to improve first responder safety. I sincerely appreciate your support of my mission. I should also note that Midwest Fire, along with Hale Pumps, sponsored 3 live tour event stops in northern Minnesota. Your generous support helped to give this valuable message on firefighter safety to regions that might not otherwise be able to afford to host a tour stop, and allowed us to provide the attendees with a copy of my newest book. So thank you, Midwest Fire and Hale Pumps, for your support and commitment to firefighter safety. If you're interested in attending an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop, head over to the SA Matters website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Upcoming Event Schedule. Here's hoping there's a tour stop near you and we'll get a chance to meet up. More than 500 agencies on 4 continents have hosted a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event. Has your agency? No? Please, don't wait until you've had a significant injury or a significant near miss or a casualty event. Be proactive and get your program scheduled. If you're interested in hosting a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop in 2016 for your department or association, just contact me through the samatters.com website. Click on the Contact Us tab, and we'll get something set up for you. Here's a tip on how you can host a program at a reduced cost. I schedule many what I call companion programs. These are programs on adjoining days to other programs. So if you see I'm delivering a program within a couple of hours of your department and you think you might want to tag along as a companion, contact me. Do it early, though. You have to get it before I've got my travel all scheduled and such. You could save as much as 20% on the program costs for being a companion to an existing program. Oh, you may recall from the start of the show that this is episode 96. That means we're going to reach another milestone next month when we reach episode 100. In the podcasting world, this is a really big deal. Very few podcasters have the tenacity to keep podcasting after just a few episodes. One of the reasons for this is there's such very little feedback that comes back to the podcaster, so they really don't know if anyone's listening or if anyone's getting benefit from the show. I get quite a bit of feedback in the form of at the live programs of people telling me that they listen to the show and appreciate it, and then people tweeting and retweeting the content of the shows on social media really gives me inspiration. If you'd like the show, I'd like to hear from you. Just reach out to me on the website by the Contact Us link. Your feedback really does inspire me to work harder. Really, it does. Thank you to all those who've taken the time to reach out to me and especially post things on social media. If you want to know where you can find me on social media, just visit the SA Matters website, and there are tabs there for Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. You can also, on the website, sign up to receive notifications every time a new blog post or a new podcast is posted. You can also sign up to receive a free newsletter, which I send out each month. Earlier this month, I received an email from a podcast listener asking some questions about how his administrative workload is impacting his situational awareness. So we're going to start our feature segment with his email. Good morning, Dr. Gasaway. I was wondering if station assignments, tasks, workload, etc., can have an impact on situational awareness. If you have any articles, or if you could point me in the right direction where I could learn more about this, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm a career captain on a multi-station combination fire department. We have 3-man engines and 3-man ladder companies. I have found that I'm spending more and more time in my station office with a heavier and heavier administrative workload. There have been several occasions where I have been on emergency scenes, whether that be a vehicle accident, an alarm, or a working fire, and have found myself thinking, quote, I hope this doesn't take much longer. I've still got to do blank, fill in the blank, when I get back to the station, end quote. Well, last week we were dispatched to a working structure fire in the evening. On our arrival, I was on the ladder, and command ordered us to secure a water supply for the first-in engine. I heard his instructions, and for some reason, just laid in directly to the engine, completely bypassing securing a water supply for the ladder. As the call was winding down, the IC was walking around the scene and noticed the ladder truck didn't have a water supply. He asked me what the plan was if we would have had to go defensive and needed to flow water from the aerial. I gave him some quick Plan B ideas, but honestly, I hadn't really even considered what I was going to do when I was setting things up. This sounds like a rookie mistake, but I've been a captain for almost a decade. As I thought about why this happened, I knew that I had 2 to 3 hours of administrative workload that I needed to get done before my shift ended at 7 a.m. Although I wasn't thinking directly about the work waiting for me, is it possible that the stress and the distraction from my administrative load could have impacted my situational awareness? I'm honestly not looking to get out of my administrative duties and the extra things that I do while I'm on shift, but I do want to learn how these distractions might impact my situational awareness and what I can do to reduce the impact and improve my situational awareness. I know some of our other officers share my same concerns. I know that you're a busy man. Thank you for taking time to read this. I probably went on too long. Sorry about that. And signed his name, which I am going to withhold, even though I did contact him and ask him for his permission to use his email as the basis of this podcast. I told him that I would not identify him, so I won't. But I do want to discuss his concerns. I think the concern is valid and appropriate to seek some understanding with. So let's start by discussing how situational awareness is developed and maintained. When you think about situational awareness, think about building a house. You start with a foundation, and then you build walls, and then you build a roof. The foundation for situational awareness is perception. Perception is using your senses to gather information about what's going on around you. And the two most dominant senses that we use on emergency scenes are seeing and hearing. And then you've got 3 other senses, feel, taste, and smell, but we'll focus predominantly on seeing and hearing. So as you arrive on the scene, you're gathering information, visual information, audible information, hearing things over the radio, hearing orders coming over the radio, and information from dispatch, all perception, all input. That's the foundation for situational awareness. So you have to be paying attention. You have to be all in per se, to be able to have good perception. Sometimes the terms used to describe perception are paying attention, keeping your head on a swivel, looking up, down, and all around, actively listening, conducting a proper size up. Those terms, while often used to describe situational awareness, they're not wrong, but they're only describing perception, the input part. So once the brain perceives this information, which, by the way, the only thing that gets inside the brain is electrical activity. There's no eyes inside the brain. The eyes are on the outside. There's no ears inside the brain. The ears are on the outside. Those are organs are just gathering devices that take the inputs and turn them into electricity. So for the sake of the conversation, for my friend who's talking about audible information and not processing it because his mind was on something else, we'll stick with audible as the example here. So as sound waves come into your ears, the nerves inside of your ears take the sound waves, turn them into electricity, and then send them down a highway back into the brain. Now that highway is a neural pathway of nerve fibers that crackling electrical activity is heading down the highway. Now there has to be a place where that electrical activity is then assembled into some form of understanding. And when and where that happens, that then leads us to the second part of the situational awareness development continuum, the walls of the house, so to speak, understanding. So when you're reaching the point of understanding, your brain is essentially taking the electrical impulses almost in the form of, think of puzzle pieces, and taking those puzzle pieces and assembling them together to form a coherent understanding about what is happening. Now, there is a place in the brain where this happens. It is the place in the brain where you have consciousness and where you have conscious awareness, and it's also where you form your situational awareness. Now, the example that I use in the classes that I teach to keep it simple to understand is just to think of an Etch-a-Sketch. So on the Etch-a-Sketch, the puzzle pieces come in from the 5 pathways for seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and those puzzle pieces then get assembled on the Etch-a-Sketch. So the Etch-a-Sketch is where you form your understanding of what is happening, where the proverbial puzzle pieces get fit together. Now, because that is the place of consciousness and it is the place of conscious awareness, anything that's on your mind, so to speak, is occupying space on your mental Etch-a-Sketch. So as you're thinking about something, that thought is, as it's on your mind, is on your consciousness, which means it's on your Etch-a-Sketch. And there's a third component to situational awareness development continuum, which is prediction of future events. And I guess that comes into play here a little bit in that this officer wasn't thinking about the potential future event of his incident taking a turn for the worse and needing the aerial water supply. But I'm going to just set prediction aside for this conversation because I want to focus on what's happening at the second level there, at the understanding, where the puzzle pieces are being put together on the Etch-a-Sketch. So anything that's on your mind is occupying space on your mental Etch-a-Sketch. So if you're all in, for example, on this podcast, if you're all in listening to this podcast, then my words that are coming through your listening device into your ears are being turned into electrical impulses, being sent down a highway, and being sketched into understanding on your Etch-a-Sketch. But let something interrupt you or something distract you, like somebody coming into the room where you are listening to this podcast and start up a conversation with you, and you're going to quickly switch off of listening to the podcast, whether you turned it off or not. Your ears are going to turn it off, and you're going to listen to that conversation with that other person, which is to say that attention has shifted from listening to the podcast to listening to that other person, which is to say that the space on the Etch-a-Sketch is now drawing the pictures of the message of that other person versus the message of the the podcast. So anything that draws your attention away from what you just previously were paying attention to has the potential to impact situational awareness, especially if you were paying attention to something that was very important, and then all of a sudden something comes in and hijacks your Etch-a-Sketch and starts drawing other pictures. Then whatever it is that you're paying attention to is going to get pushed to the sideline. You may still see things in your emergency scene environment, and you may still hear things in your emergency scene environment, but if the Etch-a-Sketch is busy because your mind is on something else, simply because your ears are working and your eyes are working fine, so if that information does not reach the end destination and get sketched into understanding, then you will not comprehend the meaning or the intended meaning of the visual input or the audible message. So let's talk about a few things that can hijack your Etch-a-Sketch and cause your current situation to not be comprehended. So one of those is preoccupation. Preoccupation is, having something on your mind. And as you are preoccupied with something, in the case of this officer, it might be his administrative workload. And it sounds like there is some preoccupation there because he talks about being at emergency scenes and having his administrative workload on his mind. Well, as you have something else on your mind, just simply remember whatever that something else is occupying space on your sketch pad. And as it occupies the space on the sketch pad, it leaves limited to little to no space for comprehending the meaning of the current situation, visual clues and audible clues, into understanding. The Etch-a-Sketch is only so big. Now, you can shift attention back and forth between things. You can shift attention from whatever is occupying your mind to the current situation, and then switch back to your preoccupation, then switch back to the current situation. But as you switch back and forth, there is also the potential for some forgetting to occur. So switching back and forth, while the brain can do it quickly, sometimes giving us the false belief that we're multitasking, it has its own host of problems. Worry. Anything that you are thinking about, that you have to do, that you are worried about, is going to can occupy space on your conscious awareness. And as things occupy the space on the conscious awareness level, then so the situational awareness can be impacted because, again, conscious awareness and situational awareness occupying the same space on the Etch-a-Sketch. So the thing that's particularly challenging about worry is that not only you're worried about what you have to do or what you haven't done, but you also then think about the consequences of what can happen is based on what you haven't done or what you need to do. So not only do you have on your mind the things that you need to do, but you also are thinking about the potential consequences, that down the road, if I don't get this done, then, somebody's going to be mad at me, or, something else isn't going to get done. And for example, if you're the person who is doing the scheduling, and say one of your administrative duties, one of the consequences of not getting the scheduling done in time and properly is that a shift might go without the proper staffing because you didn't get the schedule done or get it done right. And your mind can then not only be worried about the task of scheduling, but also be drifting in the direction of thinking into the future of the consequences of not getting that work done. Mind drift is another thing that I want to talk about. Mind drift is when you're operating at an incident scene where things seemingly are routine or mundane. So not a terribly high risk, high consequence incident with fast changing conditions, but just, I don't want to say a routine call because I don't think there is such a thing as a routine call, but the kind of call where there is not immediate impending grave danger, and your mind can kind of drift. And as your mind drifts, as the mind essentially gets bored with what's going on, it starts to drift and it starts to think about other things. So as the mind drifts, and in the case of this officer, if he's at an incident that is not, one of great consequence, his mind can then shift or drift toward thinking about that big pile of administrative work that he has to do. And like he said, he's at an incident saying, come on, let's get this wrapped up. I got to get back. I got all this administrative work to do. And, the mind is drifting back to that big pile of work and the administrative load and not necessarily processing the information of the current situation. Now, if it's a low risk event, and then there's not necessarily any consequence about it, but low risk events can turn to high risk events very quickly. Say, for example, he said on motor vehicle accidents, you could be on a highway incident where there is not, a critically injured patient, but there is traffic moving, and that moving traffic presents a risk to responders. And as the mind drifts, a person might find themselves not paying as much attention to the dangers around them, say with the traffic, because their mind is on something else. Stress also causes some things to occupy space on the Etch-a-Sketch. So things that cause you stress tend to stay on your mind. So those things that you're worried about in life, or they're causing you stress, and it could be work-related things or it can be personal things. But here, the stress from the administrative workload that isn't getting done can cause the concern for those things that aren't getting done to stay on the mind, because stress is just keeping it forefront on the mind. And then you have expectations. All right, so you got two kinds of expectation. I guess three kinds of expectations now that I think about it. You have your self-expectations, and then you have the expectations of your peers, and then you have the expectations of your bosses. So those expectations can also cause things to stay on your mind or stay on your awareness. So if you have, say, very high self-expectations about the quality of your administrative workload, then while you're in an emergency scene, you could be thinking about how your administrative workload could be suffering and would not produce the same high-quality work that you set for your own expectations, because your time is being occupied or being used up, and your 24-hour shift time is being used up on your incident scenes. And you're thinking, I'm not going to be able to get this done, or get it done in the time I wanted to get it done, or get it done in the quality that I wanted to get it done. So your level of expectation, say you're, kind of a perfectionist, and on a 1 to 10 scale, you have the mindset that you want your workload to be consistently at a 9 or a 10, while you might be with your self-expectation saying, well, I'm only going to be able to get this done to a 6 level, and that's not acceptable to me. And then your mind starts racing and wondering about how you're going to be able to squeeze the time or make that work. And all the while those things are on your mind is not on the incident scene. Then you have peer expectations. If you're doing administrative workload that has an impact on peers, you could be thinking about, what are others going to think about me when I don't get my administrative workload done in time and high quality, and there's the potential consequence that others then will judge me as inadequate, or they'll criticize me, and so your peer expectations could be occupying space on your mind as well. And then your boss expectations as well. In general, I think we want to keep our bosses happy. If for no other reason, we realize that they have the potential to bring consequences to us. And, if we keep our bosses happy, it could also lead to some rewards for us in the form of positive reinforcement, positive performance reviews, kudos and opportunities for promotion. So, keeping the boss's expectations of our administrative workload on our mind, eventually we're going to have to face that boss and say, boss, I got the work done, and here's a here's a 10 level outcome, or boss, I got the work done, but because I was busy on calls, I only got it done to the 5 level outcome, and having to face the potential that the boss might not be happy with that or be critical of us can weigh on our mind. So those are some potential causations for how situational awareness can be impacted from the mind being on the administrative load. So let's talk about maybe some solutions. The first one that comes to mind is workload management. So the administrative workload, here's the thing about administrative workload, is a lot of our administrative workload, while it is important, it is not necessarily timely in that it has to be done by a specific deadline. Even if a deadline is set, oftentimes those deadlines are arbitrarily set, but have no true consequence if the administrative load carries on past the deadline. Sometimes we set our own deadlines, sometimes others set the deadlines for us, but having an understanding as to what the deadlines are for the workload, and then prioritizing that work that is urgent from the work that is important but not urgent. So you got kind of two continuums here: the importance of the work and the urgency of the work. And sometimes there's things that need to be done urgently that aren't terribly important, but it's urgent. It's got a fixed, non-adjustable deadline. And then sometimes there's work that's very important, but it isn't urgent work. There's time to work on that. So what I would say is, to advise this is start each shift by prioritizing the workload so that you don't end up working on things that are important but not urgent, and make sure that you get the urgent work done first. So make the list of all the work that needs to be done on the shift, and then prioritize that work, and starting with the urgent, because time is your nemesis here, because you're only working a 24-hour shift. The urgency takes the priority over the important, because the urgent work must be done by the end of the shift, and the important work, while important, may be able to wait for the next shift or the next shift. So prioritizing the urgent first because of your time constraint, and then the important. And you could even do this in 2 columns. Just take your piece of paper and split it down the middle and put the urgent stuff on the left and the important stuff on the right. And it's important too to acknowledge that the things that we do that are fun tend to be the things that we want to do, and we focus on and we do because they're fun. And we tend to put off the things to the last minute that aren't fun and not enjoyable, and we could end up, even though that's urgent work, not get it done in a timely manner. So don't let how much you enjoy or not enjoy influence whether that piece of work goes on the urgent side of the list or the important side of the list. So list it, prioritize it. There's a certain value that comes along with writing down what needs to be done, making a task list. And if for no other reason, if you're just holding that list in your mind, then that list is constantly circulating and turning in your mind, and you're just constantly going through the list of, I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this. And there's just something inherent about writing it down. And as you write it down, it's almost like you're letting it out of your mind. You're saying, it's okay to release. It's okay to get it out of my mind. I won't forget about it. I cannot forget about it because I've written it down. Now, if you forget where you wrote it down at, that can also present another set of problems for us. But taking it and writing it down then kind of releases it out of mind, and then you don't have to always be swirling that around, And so when you're on an incident scene, you say, what do I got to do when I get back? Well, if it isn't written down, you just start swirling all these, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. If you're on an incident scene, you say, what do I got to do when I get back? I don't know. When I get back, I'll look down at the task list and I'll see then, and it just makes it easier to not swirl around in the mind because you've got it written down on your to-do list when you get back. Setting some timelines can be helpful so that as you look at the urgent things, you say, I want to try to get this done before lunch. I want to try to get this done before dinner. I want to get this done before I go to bed. I want to get this done before the end of shift. So setting some reasonable timelines can also help. And then pacing your work. As much as you have an administrative workload, you also have to pace yourself, and you have to take some mental breaks. The more you sit doing the administrative workload, the more the mind can wear down. So it is important to occasionally, even if you don't have calls, is to disengage from the administrative load and give yourself kind of a mental break and not get pulling down into the quagmire of the load that you have. Focus. When you are at calls, I would suggest that you go all in on the call. In other words, once the call comes in, you shift the administrative load into neutral, and you hyper-focus on the call. The clues, the cues, the information, the priorities, the risks, the tactics, the strategy of that call. And when you know your administrative workload is written down and it's going to be waiting for you when you get back, and you'll be able to sit down and pick up right where you left off, that actually helps to make it easier to focus on the call, because that administrative load isn't swirling around in your mind per se. And then the final thing I have to say is, if your administrative load is too heavy, talk to your bosses and let them know that your administrative load is potentially impacting your ability to get the rest of your job done, including sharing with them what's happening when you're on emergency scenes. I know when I was in my administrative position, because we didn't have too many layers of administration between me and line officers, the line officers ended up with a lot of the administrative duties, and it was just a delegation thing so that I could keep my sanity. I delegated a lot and still worked 60 to 70 hours a week in spite of the fact of everything that I had delegated down to company officers, but that also then increased the company officer workload as well. So if there is a concern, you could talk to the supervisor and say, look, I'm not trying to get out of my administrative load, but I'm trying to better learn how to manage my administrative load so that it doesn't impact my situational awareness or the safety of my crew when we're operating at scenes, because I've got this heavy administrative load on my mind, and see what ideas and suggestions that they might be able to offer to you as well. In the end, whatever is on your mind is going to occupy your attention, and whenever that happens, it can be harder to concentrate and comprehend the meaning of information being shared in the moment. And at an emergency scene, it's dangerous to have thoughts on your mind that are related to anything other than the situation that you're dealing with. Thank you to the listener of the podcast for sending me that question. If you have a question you'd like for me to address on the podcast, just go to the samatters.com website and click on the Contact Us link and send me an email. And your question, I may either answer it in an email, I may call and talk to you on the phone, or I may answer it in a podcast. If I answer in a podcast with your permission, then I'll do it anonymously, and you might even end up as a guest on the show. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, you want to be a guest on the show, talk about your near miss or close call, contact me. Visit the samatters.com site, click on the Contact Us link on the top of the homepage. Think about that for a moment. How valuable that can be to have your lessons learned shared with others. It could save their life. That's powerful. Contact me. Hey, if you haven't subscribed to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show yet, please consider taking a moment to go to iTunes or to Stitcher Radio and subscribe. Just search SA Matters Radio. SA Matters Radio. And while you're there, please consider leaving some feedback on the show. And if you like the show, give it a 5-star review. This is really important because it inspires me to work harder for you, and it helps others to find the show. If you haven't heard, I released the third book in the Situational Awareness Matters series. This is Volume 3. The book contains critical lessons for improving situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. If you want a copy, you can buy it on the samatters.com website or through amazon.com. If you know of a business that might be interested in supporting the Situational Awareness Matters mission with a sponsorship, I'm seeking a few select sponsors to help offset the cost of running the website, social media, podcast, YouTube channel, and the monthly newsletter that provides all the free content. If you're not involved in these platforms, you may not realize that there is costs associated with web hosting, firewall protection, premium accounts on social media, newsletter hosting, email list management. There are quite a few services that require payments, and I'm paying them, and I'm happy to be able to do that for you. But it'd be nice to have a sponsor or two that could help to offset some of those costs. The website has enjoyed over 1 million visitors, and those visitors have downloaded over 4 million pages of content. We post new blog articles every Friday. The SA Matters newsletter is distributed to thousands of first responders monthly, and the podcast that you're listening to comes out every Tuesday, and it has been downloaded over 85,000 times. So if you know of a business that would like to get their message in front of my visitors, subscribers, and supporters, ask them to contact me through the samatters.com website on the Contact Us link on the homepage. And a huge thanks to Midwest Fire for renewing their commitment to our mission by signing on to sponsor this podcast for all of 2016. If you're not a member of the SA Matters community of learners yet, please consider joining. There are over 5,000 members connected here on SA Matters, sharing ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to train members on how to be critical thinkers and resilient problem solvers. Membership is free, F-R-E-E, free. When you sign up, I'll send you a special report. It's free too, called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. Head over to the samatters.com website, click on the red box on the right side of the homepage that says free membership. If you want to get connected with me on social media, on Twitter, you can follow at Rich Gasaway or at SA Matters on Twitter. The SA Matters Twitter community is heading towards 17,000 followers of our mission. Thanks to everybody connected with me on Twitter. You can also join a private Facebook group that I've created. SA Matters. Facebook.com/groups/SA Matters. Here's an enticement to join the private group. I have a discount code in there to get 50% off the new book. So that'll save you $20 right there. And the Facebook group's free, by the way. On LinkedIn, you can search for Rich Gasaway. Well, that's it. Episode 96 is complete. Thanks to our podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thanks to all of our live event hosts. And thank you, our listeners, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.